Do this. Google George Bush beheaded Game of Thrones. Okay? Google that, and you'll see that the Game of Thrones, for a severed head on a spike, they used George Bush's face. Why do I bring this up? Well, it's because you may think, if you're new to politics, that derangement syndrome, Trump derangement syndrome, this derangement syndrome originated with the election of Donald Trump. You would be wrong. Actually, the original term was Bush Derangement Syndrome. Some of you know this, a lot of you don't. And it was coined by Charles Krauthammer, who was a political commentator and also was a trained psychiatrist. And he observed just how insane the left wing was in regards to George W. Bush. An irrational hatred, just foaming at the mouth hatred and anxiety and worry. A lot of you weren't politically conscious at that point. Some of you were alive, you just weren't paying attention to politics. A lot of you weren't even really born, or you were kids during this. When I tell you they hated George W. Bush, it's an understatement. It's definitely on par with the way they hate Trump. There were books and plays published about the assassination of George W. Bush. Kanye West gets on stage and says George Bush hates black people. They hated this man, okay? So this derangement syndrome in regard to conservative politicians isn't new. Had McCain or Romney won, there'd be McCain derangement syndrome and Romney derangement syndrome. There's already J.D. Vance derangement syndrome. It's so widespread. As soon as a Republican is nominated to president or vice president, this ignites derangement syndrome in a large portion of the Democratic base. It just does. And it's possible after 10 years, if Trump's still alive, they will look back fondly on Trump, and whoever is the new Republican nominee they'll have derangement syndrome about this person. So it's just panic, it's just fright. It's really a low information position, because typically when you talk to your average Democrat, they don't really know what Republicans stand for. They don't really understand conservatism. They think it's all like Handmaid's Tale stuff or something. They've never heard counters to their positions in the world, and they don't want to hear them for the most part, because they don't think they exist. So they think if you try to counter a left-wing position, they don't want to hear it because they think you're just making things up, or it just can't possibly be true. So the source of derangement syndrome, I think, is just low information and just not wanting to know about the other side.